Hello and welcome to my first attempt at a game pickups video. Well, sort of. See, the goal of my channel is to provide my thoughts on as many games out there as possible, but the trouble is I struggle to justify making a dedicated video about every single game I play. More often than not, I prefer discussing things that are important to me, games that touched me, that made me think. I don't just talk about every title that comes my way, and I don't do reviews because, frankly, I'm a terrible writer, and recently I realized that I shot myself in the foot by approaching my content this way. I play a lot more games than I actually cover, and I've been buying more games than ever lately too, and yet my channel looks like a desert now. Well, maybe it's time to do something about that. What I'm going to do is I'll show you everything I bought this past September, but instead of simply leaving it at that, I'll try and describe each game in as much depth as I can. I get an opportunity to chat about stuff, and you get content from me, so it's a win-win situation for pretty much everybody. I'd like to start with the game that some of you may consider controversial, SSX Blur. I love snowboarding games, or at least I decided I did. I haven't actually played that many of them, so when I learned there was an exclusive Wii entry in the fabled SSX series, I was excited, and this September I got to try it out for the first time. I feel like I have to mention this here, even though this discussion is of no interest to me, but the SSX community absolutely hates this game's guts. I won't comment on why that is, because I haven't played any of the previous titles in the franchise yet, so I'll be judging SSX Blur solely on its own merits, without comparing it to what came before. Even then though, this game is problematic. It's not exactly easy to play this one. The controls are pretty frustrating, I'll be honest with you, and not just because of motion controls, they're by themselves kind of funky. It's very difficult to move your character around, and it feels like the map's layout deliberately railroads you into all sorts of uncomfortable situations sometimes. The level design in general is hit and miss, visually stunning, yes, but functionally often irritating. It's not always clear where to go, and I got thrown out of bounds enough times for it to get annoying. There's also way too much debris on the tracks. I was constantly bumping into shit because I couldn't maneuver my character precisely enough, and this issue is even further exacerbated by the lack of any ability to move in the air. Snowboarding games are all about sick air tricks, and if you get airborne in SSX Blur and there's a tree in your way, you're gonna crash into that tree. There's nothing you can do about it. It pissed me off every time it happened, and it happened pretty bloody often. It's very difficult to enjoy this game, and believe it or not, even more difficult to actually progress through it. The map is divided into 3 peaks, 2 of which are locked at the start of the game. In order to get access to the rest of the mountain, you have to do these tournaments that make you participate in activities like carving and collecting emblems. You know, things that require precision, which, as I'm sure you understand, aren't exactly this game's forte. And I just couldn't progress. I simply couldn't do it. So I had to use a cheat code to unlock the other peaks. I have no shame in admitting that. If I hadn't done that, I would have stopped playing not even 2 hours in. I had to cheat not only the game, but myself, to get my money's worth out of this purchase. But even with everything unlocked, there's not a lot of content here. All side activities involve skillful play, which is pretty much impossible for me because of the unintuitive controls and questionable level design, leaving nothing but free ride to entertain me. And you know, just simply going down the mountain with no clear conditions, no time limits, no stress, it's not a bad time. Even waggling the Wiimote grows on you, eventually. It's just that there isn't much of it. What little there is there didn't hold my attention for even 10 hours. There's a nucleus of a good game in here somewhere. The actual core of this mess is still enjoyable, but it's buried under so many bad design decisions that I don't think I can recommend SSX Blur. The only undeniable strength it has is its soundtrack. Composed by Junkie XL, it provides some sweet instrumental tunes, a couple of which even made it to my playlist. But, you know, the OST is free of charge and you don't need to suffer through the game's worst moments to enjoy it, so take that as you will. The next 2 games I've got here for you have something in common. I've gone on record saying I love my Wii U dearly, but despite that I never got around to building a big collection of games for it. Part of the reason that is I don't need every game I play to be physical. For my game shelf I normally want the essentials, the games that mean the most to me. Everything else I don't mind having digitally, which is why only a small fraction of my Xbox 360 collection is made up of discs. I just don't need all that extra plastic, it takes space, you know. But with the Wii U, I gradually came to the understanding that I love it so much I just have to immortalize my memories of it with an impressive collection. So I decided I'd be getting physical copies of Wii U games I liked well enough but wasn't blown away by. I consider them to be good, worthwhile purchases but not exactly must-haves. If not for this purpose, I'd be absolutely fine with picking these up on eShop. So I started this glorious collector's quest this month with Resident Evil Revelations and ZombiU. I first played Revelations many years ago and I've played it multiple times on Wii U as well. It's a really good game with some nice atmosphere and a great story. Its gameplay is a bit janky, the movement looks and feels kinda off. They allowed for more movement options as opposed to Resident Evil 4, which resulted in you sliding left and right while running. It's very awkward. Shooting doesn't feel anywhere near as good as in RE4 either. The audio-visual feedback you get from hitting monsters isn't great, which probably has to do with the fact this was a portable title at one point. That also applies to the visuals. The fact you have a partner with you for like 80% of the game but no option for co-op of any kind is odd. Not a deal breaker, but it makes you wonder why there are so many bloody characters running around. Aside from that, Resident Evil Revelations is pretty great. The pacing is on point, enemy encounters are challenging, there are some nice spooks in here, and I really like exploration in this game. I know the Genesis scanner is a point of contention for many, but I actually loved using this thing. To me, it's what makes Revelations truly a survival horror game. Ammo and healing items are sparse, so you need to thoroughly check your surroundings. Whether you get out of a sticky situation in one piece or not depends on how prepared for it you are. It's great. What's also cool is how the game is clearly divided into horror-oriented sections and then action bits. It goes back and forth between the two as the story goes on, and it really keeps things moving. There's a nice variety of gameplay scenarios, settings and color palettes, and just things you do in general. The plot, as previously mentioned, is fantastic as well. It has this TV show-like structure to it where each episode ends with a cliffhanger. It's incredibly absorbing and makes you want to keep playing just to learn what happens next. It definitely makes up for the not-so-great game feel of Revelations. The title also runs perfectly on the Wii U and even has some fun gamepad functionality, which is a rare treat. If that didn't come across clearly enough, I wholeheartedly recommend this one. Much like Resident Evil Revelations, ZombiU is a horror game but with a far stronger emphasis on survival. This is one of those instances where the story works fully in tandem with gameplay. If you're not prepared for the situation at hand, your chances of making out of it alive are rather slim. Even something as simple as forgetting to equip an item to a quick slot can cost you your life, because managing your inventory is a long and meticulous process here. Even so much as opening it is a hassle in and of itself, let alone manually dragging each icon to desired position, and to top it off, all of it is happening in real time. You're in constant danger, especially during moments of inventory management, because it's all done solely on the Wii U gamepad. You literally have to turn away from the TV screen, from everything that's happening around you essentially, to do this stuff, as if you're actually hurriedly scrambling for supplies in your backpack. It's excellent. If you love survival games, that is. I'm not exactly into this kind of thing, but it was definitely an interesting experience for me. Where ZombiU lacks is pretty much everywhere else. There's not much happening, there aren't many characters around, and you're playing as a completely random wanker to boot. This game doesn't have much of a personality to it really. Environments are bleak and colorless, zombie designs are generic, and the setup is the tired escape from the infected city cliché. Don't expect a thrilling narrative out of ZombiU, its focus is on the gameplay. If you're in for a true survival horror experience, this is probably one of the better examples in the genre in recent years. The final game I have here for you that I picked up this September is the one I spent most of my time playing this month. Minecraft. Although fairly late to the party, which is typical of me, I've been looking into this one for quite some time. I've known about it for many years, but when I actually took the time to sit down and see it in action, I found it hard to look away. Minecraft is utterly fascinating to me. It speaks to the creative side of me very much in the same way Super Mario Maker did, except with nearly limitless freedom. Being able to reconstruct the world around me in any way I see fit is immensely empowering. I can level mountains and build skyscrapers in their place for no reason, I love it. I can spend countless hours designing the interior of one room, I hate it. Minecraft is truly a game where you take on a role of a god, only to realize just how terribly unprepared for the job you are, because you lack any sort of foresight or even general idea of what your world is supposed to be like. You just run around learning the ins and outs of the universe, and as your knowledge grows, begin to have ideas form in your head. It starts with "I need to build a shelter for the night", progresses with "it wouldn't hurt to have a private mining facility directly underneath my glorious mansion", and ends with "God, I really am building this awesome tribute to one of my favorite games right now, aren't I?" You can do virtually anything you want in this game, with the only real limitation being your own imagination, and while I know it's a cliché thing to say, that does make Minecraft a truly extraordinary experience. But as I suggested, there is an endpoint to it, or rather there might be one. I've put in over 60 hours into this game, built a sizable home base, explored both the overworld and the nether, screwed around with redstone for a bit, even found the end portal. And though there's plenty of stuff I'm yet to do there, for now I don't really feel like going back to it. I've had my fill. Back when Super Mario Maker 1 was still relevant, Nintendo would release updates for it that featured new course elements. Those little updates kept me invested in that game because they expanded upon what could be done in it. I remember the announcements being the most exciting part of some of the Nintendo Directs at the time for me. But when it was all over, I had next to no incentive to go back to it because I've already done everything I wanted in it. And it's the same way with Minecraft for me. The Wii U version belongs to what they call the Legacy Console Edition. It's not supported anymore, so nothing new will ever come to it. But I knew that going into it. The only thing I wanted out of this purchase was that it was portable. There ain't no way I'm sitting at my desk for 5 hours a day mining in some godforsaken cave. I'm old and tired and my back can only take so much. And since I'm collecting for the Wii U, getting this version was a no-brainer. Yes, it has less longevity to it than newer ports, but at the end of the day it's still Minecraft. It was still amazing for those 60 hours I spent in it. And I will return to it one day when I have my creative juices flowing again. After all, the amount of material for inspiration out there is practically infinite. And that, for the most part, is everything I added to my physical collection this September. One title I omitted from this list is the Saints Row 4 and Get Out of Hell collection for the Xbox One. I don't have an Xbox One yet and I can't play this, so I won't be talking about it. I tend to do this sometimes. I see a good deal in a game for a system I don't own, and it feels like a waste if I don't pick it up. This is why I've had this copy of Mirror of Fate for 5.5 years now, because still, for some reason, I don't have a 3DS yet. In 2019, when they're all sold out already, Jesus. But anyway, that's that for this bollocks. Let me know if you like my take on the format of game pickups videos. I'd love to know if my in-depth angle on it is interesting to anybody. Thank you for watching and see you next time.